Welcome, everyone. God bless you all. Thank you for tuning in. Today, I have my good friend Rich with us from United Financial Freedom. He's going to talk to us about the Money Max account and how it can add to your existing financial plans to help you get out of debt, increase wealth, ultimately achieve financial freedom. So, with that, I'm going to pass it over to you, Rich. Thanks for spending some time with me today as we discuss the Money Max system.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today, Denzel. It's really a privilege to be able to collaborate with you. I guess I could say I've been an admirer from afar for a while. I'd be remiss not to say how incredible it is to have, somebody in a younger generation really going back to grassroots about the importance of people being better financial stewards and understanding the importance of proper money management. And I think it's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this collaboration. So thank you so much again. And one of the first things that stands out to me, especially as somebody that's been following your work for a while, I kind of call you the scientist. You're very deliberate, methodical, and analytical, and you really dig deep into these strategies that we talk about, whether it's unique banking related strategies or velocity banking, et cetera. And I think where there's a great synergistic collaboration here is that as you know, I started off in the financial industry for many years, and I'm an old dog in this space for 30 years, but I've also been a part of this technology for 17, 18 years now. And the one thing that I noticed, and you and I talked about this, I think one of our early conversations, Denzel, that, we're coming up to what, Thanksgiving soon here. And every single year, the top two New Year's resolutions are what?
Lose weight, make more money.
That's right. Fitness and finance, right? So it's usually lose weight, get in shape, get out of debt, and save money.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I mention that is because, and forgive this expression, but it came from my dad many, many years ago. And I was a pretty good kid, I think, but every time I kind of did something stupid, I would always tell my dad, well, but I didn't mean to do that, Dad, right? And he'd say, well, son, the road to hell is paved in good intentions. And I think a lot of us have the best of intentions to get in shape, to stick with our diet, to stick with our workout plan and or to save money, to budget, to get out of debt, and life gets in the way. And so I don't think that's so much about beating us up. About it is understanding the weak link in life, right? Because most of us aren't experts that spend all day every day thinking about finances, right? You're an exception, and I suppose I am too. But for most people, they're just trying to navigate through life. They have a job, they have family, they have unique struggles and challenges, and managing money is just an aspect, and oftentimes a small perceived aspect of people managing money. And so the thing I'm most excited about is that it this kind of technology helps us to make the execution of strategies and concepts and things that you teach and coach on much more effective. I'll use this example, going back to the fitness and finance analogy and everything that happens January 1st. People don't plan to fail or don't fail. They don't plan to fail, as they say. They fail to plan, but they fail to follow through because execution is everything, right? Follow through is everything. And so we decided that if we could modernize the way that people manage their money, right, and actually create technology to give them real time feedback on the possible impact of either decisions they just made or simply decisions that they're thinking about making, they could make much, much better decisions. And one of the things I appreciate probably most about what you do uniquely in your space, probably more than anybody else I know, is that you don't take anything for granted. You really, it's the old, you can't expect what you don't inspect, right? You take a really deep dive into the mechanics of what people need to do. And it's why it's a pleasure to work with people like you in this space. Where we come into play is that just like we call our technology financial GPS, right? Now, respectfully, Denzel, you're young enough where you've only had GPS your whole life, okay?
Yeah.
Us old dogs remember when my grandfather just had a compass on his dashboard, right? And then, of course, we had maps and MapQuest. But GPS allows us to take all of that information in terms of how we're trying to navigate to a given destination that we choose and makes it real time and allows us to understand the immediate impact of anything that changes. Now, think about the power of that financially. So, if we're able to take a lot of the education that you're able to provide, a lot of the coaching and the training and the guidance, right, which is incredibly important, and we're able to help augment that to increase the likelihood that somebody's going to succeed by understanding the impact of what they've just done, or to be able to plan in the future, to have financial foresight. And that's really why we call the Money Max account financial GPS, because, well, life happens, as we say, in other ways, right? So just like GPS in navigation, and we both live in South Florida, right? And now we're in snowbird season where there's 10 times more cars on the road, right? And a destination takes 2 or 3 times longer to get to than we planned on.
Hmm.
And that's provided there's not a weather issue. That's provided there's not a railroad crossing, that there's not a traffic accident, there's not a detour, et cetera. But GPS recalculates. So what if we could create financial GPS that could ebb and flow with every changing circumstance in someone's life? Their income goes down, they get a new job, they get laid off, they get a bonus, they get a tax refund, right? They went from getting paid weekly to every other week. They have another kid, or the transmission breaks down, or their washer quits, right? Those are the number one impediments to people achieving financial success. So it's really not just about getting out of debt. It's about maximizing cash flow management, right? It's about canceling interest that you talk a lot about. And then it's about being able to eliminate debt so we can ultimately create wealth and financial security.
Right. And one of the most underrated things, especially for my audience, for you guys that are watching this channel, you're learning the strategies, we're taking it to the whiteboard, you're getting your numbers in line, you're doing all the right things, and we're planning. And some of you do execute very well through coaching and
Mm-hmm.
accountability and partnership. That's when people invest in themselves. I'd say those people automatically are in a separate category, all by themselves. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
a very, very small percentage of people that will watch this channel that will listen to what I'm saying, they'll observe, they will plan, and they will execute. They will take the action, right? But that is a very, 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 very small percentage of people that are that DIY style,
Right.
where a system like Money Max can take that viewer that enjoys the content and maybe 5 or 7 other YouTube channels, and different ideas and strategies are all kind of blowing off in their mind, and they're absorbing all this financial literacy. And then you plug in a financial GPS system. What you're doing is you're cutting the downtime of the learning curve, number one, and also the execution of
Mm-hmm.
whatever strategy it is that you're looking to do. The Money Max will take into account just your financial numbers, everything that you have going on, your interest rates, payments, and all
Mm-hmm.
that. It'll just factor it all in, and it'll produce a strategy, especially those who are in lots of debts and different kinds of debts. You don't know which ones to go
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
after. It will do that math for you. But even setting that aside, the most underrated thing that I don't hear a whole lot of people saying, even in the Money Max space, like United Financial,
Yeah.
is the downtime. For example, when someone gets a raise or a reduction in income, or they did pay something off and now they have this extra cash flow, typically
Right.
without a GPS, without a system like Money Max, which honestly there isn't anything out there that comes close to it.
Mm-mm.
You've got banking apps, you've got fintech programs out there, but it's not really taking in all these other strategies as to what to do with the money. It'll track it. It'll say, yeah, this is how
That's
much you
right.
spent on groceries. This is how much you spend here. Here are your percentages. This is your budget. But it's not actually creating like goals for you, milestones, checking the true cost of you getting that car or not getting that car, or
Great
you
point.
putting a down payment on a home, or you not putting a down payment on. And it really factors in a lot of different things here. So that downtime is huge, especially when even as a financial coach, when I work with clients, there is some downtime. There's that distance between, okay, I just paid this car off and I'm going to schedule a session. Now we're going to strategize. Then we're going to implement. And oh, by the way, Denzel, before we go to the next debt, I've got this birthday and this holiday and this Christmas thing coming up. So we're like, okay, well, we're going to pull some extra cash flow of what we just gained and apply it to over
Mm-hmm.
here. And All of that is
Good point.
downtime where if you had a GPS and you can just input likely what you need to spend birthday, holiday, Christmas, New Year's, you name it,
In
Thanksgiving,
advance. That's right.
in advance, it already knows this is coming up and it'll still know what to hit next on your debt elimination timeline,
Yeah.
your particular strategy. So
And I'll
a
even
lot.
interject